And can
Okay.
you guys see my screen okay?
Yep.
And just to make sure you guys are seeing the Blackstone Launchpad. Okay, perfect. Awesome. So good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining us today on our last episode of the Masterclass series. My name is Arnav. I'm a venture coach for Blackstone Launchpad, and I'll be your host tonight. Launchpad is a campus-based office designed to make entrepreneurship accessible and relevant for all students to help you build thriving companies and careers located at Student Union 220. Today's masterclass covers patent law. We will begin in just a moment. Our presenter, Rebecca, will share her presentation and then open it up to the audience. You're welcome to use the chat box to post your questions, unless Rebecca says otherwise. She is the managing partner for Statler Law. She has a really impressive academic background. She completed her undergrad in biological sciences and psychology, after which she got her law degree from University of Buffalo. So everybody, please join me in welcoming Rebecca.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Rebecca. It's good to have you here.
Thank you. Good to be here. Okay, so am I able to share my screen?
Yes, you are. Yep.
Okay. Okay, so I'll give a little bit of background about myself. I'm a patent and trademark attorney. I've given presentations to a lot of different groups before. I have to say, it is actually a lot easier to give a presentation in person than over Zoom, because you can read facial expressions, and so many times on Zoom, people have their cameras off and you just, like, is anybody paying attention? I don't know. And in person, thanks for that. Sanskriti, is that how it's pronounced?
Yes, Rebecca, I've been so excited to meet you.
Oh, good. Good, that's good to hear. So what I typically did when I did in-person presentations was I did not use much of a PowerPoint, because I didn't really think I needed to, but I have a little bit of a PowerPoint put together today. But the way I like to give presentations a lot of times is as I'm speaking, people should ask as many questions as possible, because that just makes it more interesting. And then I'm talking about something that you care about for the most part. So a few months back, when I was speaking with Hadar about the presentation, she was looking for a little bit of an emphasis on corporate structures. So what I can do is talk about that a little bit, and I do have a little bit of a power slide, and then I can jump into possibly trademarks if people are interested in that, or I can jump straight into patent law, which is my specialty as well. And in terms of my being managing partner of Stadler IP Law, I'm actually the only person in Stadler IP Law, so I guess I am the managing partner, but I don't really call myself that. So having,
yeah, that was on me. I didn't know what to call you. Like I wanted to make sure I gave you a appropriate welcome, and so I looked up like owner of like law firm, and it said managing partner. I was like, all right, that sounds reasonable enough.
Yeah, I call myself a registered patent attorney and a trademark attorney. And I'm the owner. So okay, so with that, if I share my screen, I'm wondering if I can still see the chat. Let me just see. Okay. Let me see. Oh, it looks like I can still see the chat. Okay, so if anybody's got any questions, just throw them in the chat box there. Is my screen showing? Yep. It is. Okay, good. Okay, so so it seems a little bit unusual to start out with the definition of a business, because we kind of all think that, you know, we know what a business is, and is there any way for anybody, people to show a raise of hands? Are you starting businesses? Are you students? Are you thinking about starting businesses? Thumbs up. Okay, mostly trying to, okay, thinking about it. Okay. Are you mostly science students, entrepreneurial students?
I am I'm a graduate student, computer
Okay.
science. I graduated
Ah,
December, computer science, engineering science, and mathematics.
okay.
So yeah, I have two company, actually three company. Um, One is a trading, like stocks trading company. A
Okay.
mile later, I want to get into hedge fund, like industry. I want to become a hedge fund, hedge fund uh, guy. And I also have a startup related in health industry. I'm working on it. I also have a
Okay.
software company, like yeah, and I also have a full-time job.
Okay. So yeah. So, and you've got some extra free time. What do you do for that? Do you also play for the NFL?
No, yeah, I came to your, I learned, I go to events and learn more about entrepreneurship and building projects.
Okay. Okay, good. Okay. And Sanskriti, any answer? Everybody else has
Like,
their,
I would say I'm mostly entrepreneurial. Like I had this app
okay.
idea which had like, it like completely blocks apps like Blockside. But I think what's unique about it is that it self-learns the user's habit
Okay.
of it self-learns from users, and it then suggests them better ways to focus on things. It's like a complicated algorithm, which I don't know how to crack yet, but like I'll be seeking others' help in cracking. So I wanted to know if that could be patented. Like,
Okay, so it sounds like a little bit like artificial intelligence,
yes,
or maybe not a little bit, a
ML,
lot.
AI, deep learning, yes.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so I have a little bit of a better understanding. So I still will go through the definition of a business before I jump into patents. And are either of you interested in trademarks? Okay, so I'll talk about trademarks first. We'll probably skip the copyright stuff. I've got that in here. So a business, as you know, as you're thinking about it, you're putting in some effort to sell goods and services to people that are in need of those goods and services. So sometimes what can happen is if you open a coffee shop, people are interested in coffee because everybody likes coffee, so they want a place to get some good coffee. For entrepreneurs, sometimes you're actually creating society's needs and desires. So there was an example of, I believe, Lipton cup of soup. That was never anything that anybody wanted or needed, but as they invented that, there became an interest in that product. So they created a need. So a lot of times entrepreneurs, anybody that's doing anything disruptive, is they're creating needs. One thing I heard recently was you don't want to jump too far though. You kind of have to be possible adjacent. So if you can't come along with an electric car like 50 years ago, it's too outside of people's grasp, so they can't really understand it, and so for that reason they don't end up engaging in it. So that's one thing to consider when you're thinking about businesses. So in order to be successful, you need to be organized, you need to satisfy needs, and you need to earn a profit. That's why everybody's here. So in some cases, there are entities that are not for profits. They're trying to just gather food and clothing for the homeless or something like that. That's a little bit different than what we're talking about here. So, so that's kind of why everybody is involved in opening a business and being an entrepreneur, hopefully to make a ton of money, and provide society things that they need. So you have to combine 4 resources: materials, human resources, financial, which is a big one, and informational. So if you're anything that you're making, like a coffee shop, you need to bring a coffee maker, a grinder, a coffee, bring all that into your storefront. You need people to make the coffee. You need money. You always need money to start up a business. This is one thing that I see time and time again. people will try to open a business with a budget of $0. That is just not possible. So that's something to keep in mind. You can, maybe use a credit card, get angel investors, family investors, things along those lines. But yeah, you do need financial, and then informational. I mean, just using the coffee shop example, you need to know what type of coffee to buy, how, what to set the roast at, how to brew the coffee, how to make espresso drinks, things along those lines. I'm going to interrupt myself here. If anybody finds this uninteresting, just post it in the chat box so that I can see, or if anybody has any questions at all, just post them in there, and I can answer them as we're going along. Okay, so then there are business organization types. There's manufacturing, that's, very sort of old school in the United States. Automobiles, any type of textiles, things along those lines. More recently in the US, we've seen a possible shift to bringing back chip manufacturing to the United States. So all of that right now is happening in Taiwan, and that's potentially, some of that might end up moving back to the United States because of a little bit of uncertainty in that region of the planet. And so the Congress actually passed a bill to encourage companies to manufacture chips in the United States. And I believe that there's a new facility, I think it was in Syracuse, that they're going to be opening in the next couple of years. So that's very traditionally, the United States has focused on manufacturing business, but over the past couple of decades, we've shifted to service businesses. So that's what mine is. It's a service business. I don't really provide a product per se, but I write a patent application for you. I provide a service for you. And then marketing intermediaries, I'm not going to spend too much time on that because I don't picture entrepreneurs getting particularly involved in that. But again, if anybody would like me to talk about that, I can certainly go back. So I kind of have already spoken a little bit about satisfying needs. Every firm, you want to satisfy the needs of your customers. If nobody's buying your goods or services, you kind of have to step back and say, hey, is this really something that people need? Is this something that people need, but my marketing efforts aren't working and nobody knows what I'm up to? Or are you providing crappy services? Maybe your workmanship is not very good and people aren't happy with it. So those are some different things to think about as you're moving forward, and if you're not seeing the profit that you're hoping to see. And then of course, here's our favorite topic, profit. So you have business expenses, you're going to have insurance, you're going to have manufacturing costs, office space possibly, a coffee maker. I'm an attorney, so all we do is drink coffee. So that's why I talk about it so much. Any type of expenses that you have for your business, banking expenses, internet service expenses, those will all have to come out of your sales revenue before you can just determine what your profit is. For some companies, for the first couple of years, they might not make any profits. They might have nothing but losses. So that's, depending on the type of business it is. For entrepreneurs, that's fairly typical, where you're spending money. Let's see, what did I say? You're spending money on your invention, let's say, and your intellectual property protection, and so you don't have profits early on. Let's see. Supply chain. Okay, so I've got a question here. Please speak a little bit about supply chain of different services and software and the chip shortage. So this is a little bit outside of my expertise. So that with the chip shortage in Taiwan, I believe that's what you're speaking about. What happened is, when the pandemic hit a couple of years ago, everything sort of shut down. And so the supply chain was just completely disrupted. I think the different supplies were not able to get to Taiwan, and they weren't really able to manufacture things. And then with the container ships shipping things back to the automobile companies that need the chips, the phone companies that need the chips, you know, all of our phones and our laptops and our iPads and tablets, they all have chips. Just because of the way that the pandemic kind of shut the global economy down. That's what ended up happening there. And then the flip side of it was that demand was really, really high. So people didn't have anything to do, and they're, you know, everybody's at home and they're relying on technology. They need their laptop, they need an iPad, they need a tablet, they need a new phone. So everybody's kind of, they want all this new technology to make sure that their connection and their internet is up to speed. And for that, that's what ended up happening with the chip shortage. I read recently that demand for some of those products is actually decreased, and the chips rather are becoming more available. And so it seems like it'll take a while to kind of stabilize where we have the amount of chips that we need and the amount of sales of the technology and automobiles that we need to kind of be even. I'm hoping that that answered the question. If it did not, please, please. Oh, it did? You're kind of nodding? It did? Okay, okay, good. Okay, so I'll move on to the next. Okay, so then this can be very important for entrepreneurs to understand. We've got the different forms of business ownership. So you've got the sole proprietorship. This is fairly straightforward. Let's say you work at home and you create knitted sweaters and you want to start selling them on Etsy. You can just do this as a sole proprietor. You might want to go down to City Hall, to County Hall and form a doing business as. So, you know, Rebecca Stadler's, I actually don't knit, I crochet, so I don't know why I use knitting as an example, but Rebecca Stadler's Crocheted Creations or something. So I could just form a DBA and then kind of keep track in my bank account of business expenses so that I don't have to pay taxes on those. And I can go about it that way. For a small business on Etsy, this is a great form of business ownership. But for other individuals, this is not going to be great. This type of business, it doesn't protect you from any liability. You don't really keep your accounting separate as much as you do in an LLC or a C corporation. So if you're just starting out, I think this can be perfectly fine. And then later on, you might want to make a transition to a different type of structure. So the next one is partnership, and that's similar to a proprietorship, a sole proprietorship. It's just that you have more than one person. So you can do that as a DBA, an assumed name at the county level. Or you can actually, if you're an attorney, you might, or I think accountants as well, and maybe architects, you can file, you can structure your business as an LLP, which stands for Limited Liability Partnership. That probably doesn't affect most entrepreneurs, so I'm going to skip that, but I can come back to it if anybody has questions on that. So then the one that's probably the most important for entrepreneurs is a C corporation. So that's a regular incorporation, Nike Incorporated, any different company that is incorporated. Now, the reason that there's a benefit to this for an entrepreneur is because you can sell ownership rights, stock rights to your C corporation, and you can get investments that way. So if anybody has a specific question on C corporations, then I can answer those. But I think that pretty much covers it. That really is the advantage there. You can say, okay, this company has 100 shares of stock. I would like some money, so I'm going to sell 40 shares of the stock at $1,000 a piece and raise $40,000. So that's just a very easy example. The S corporation is interesting. It's not actually a business structure. It's actually a tax election. So you start up a C corporation or an LLC, and then you elect to be taxed as an S corp. And what it allows you to do is pass through, you can have flow through taxes. So this actually may be an option for you. So C corporations are, they're taxed at the corporate level. If you elect to be taxed as an S corporation, then you don't have taxes at the corporate level. And it's called a flow through tax. And then the only taxes that anybody pays are on the personal income taxes. So on the profit, the owners would pay that. The B corporation it's kind of in between the C corporation and a not-for-profit. So if there's a company that wants to be environmentally conscious or something, but that's not really their whole mission and purpose, then they can choose to be a B corporation. Then there's the LLC. The benefit to the LLC is that flow through tax benefit. The LLC does not pay taxes at the corporate level. The downside to that is that you're not able to sell off shares of stock. The nice thing about the LLC is that it's fairly straightforward to form it. It does protect you a little bit from liability. And then the not-for-profit is, somebody that's trying to feed the homeless, or a group that's trying to educate people, or maybe a religious entity. That would be an example, some examples of not-for-profit business structures. Okay, so products. Okay, so the product is anything that you receive in exchange for, usually cash or credit or something along those lines. It might be a good, service, or an idea. So a good is something that's tangible. A service is, you apply a human or mechanical effort to something, and we pay others to do this for us. So a haircut, nail salon, banking services, legal services. And then the last one that can be a little bit kind of confusing is an idea or philosophy. So a life coach, musical coach, anything along those lines. Those are, the different things that you can sell. So I can talk a little bit about branding. Branding is, oh, okay, no, that's the same question. I already answered that one. Branding is hugely important. Depending on who you are, you'll have people that have absolute brand loyalty. I'm an Apple person, for example, so I'm always loyal to Apple. And even when I buy like a backup charger, I'm like, I kind of want to get the Apple one and not just a generic one. I can't even tell you why. I like the Apple products. And that's exactly what any business wants. You want to find people with brand loyalty. Another example that I can think of is, I don't think I meant to do that. Is Nike. They've got great brand loyalty. And then of course there's the flip side. There are some people that will probably never buy anything by Nike or never buy anything by Apple. But yeah, so that's kind of what branding is. You try to associate different benefits of your product. So if there's, a Starbucks coffee, it's got a certain flavor to it, and people, so if they see the Starbucks label and they're like, oh, okay, so that's going to be, that's going to have this flavor. Or if they see Dunkin' Donuts, they'll think of Dunkin' Donuts. Or if you're driving down the thruway and, you see the golden arches, you'll think all kinds of different things about McDonald's. If you're a health nut, you probably think, oh, wow, there's junk food there. Or if you're a parent with screaming kids in the back seat of the car, you might be thinking, oh, I can put them on the jungle gym for a while. So those are kind of all the goodwill and the different thoughts that go through our heads as we see different branding. And it includes the brand name, and the brand mark. And any type of slogan, all of those things are included in the branding. See, where am I here? Okay, so examples, this is always my favorite, Nike. So Nike is the brand name, the swoosh logo is the brand mark, and the slogan, just do it, is also a trademark. The trade name is Nike Incorporated, but you don't need to, you would never trademark the incorporated aspect. Because nobody's really, most people don't use that. So the reason I like Nike is everything is very short and punchy about it. Then, you know, oh, my Nike kicks, and then the little swoosh. It's just very simple, but it's very identifiable. The slogan, just do it. It's just so simple and punchy. So I always use Nike as an example, because everything is just so, it's clean and it's very memorable, and so, yeah, it's one of my favorite brands. Let's see. And then I'll talk about Apple again. Okay, so Apple is the brand name. The little apple with the little bite taken out of it is the brand mark. Both of those are trademarks. And then the trade name is Apple Incorporated. So, yeah, the benefits of branding are, it makes it easy to for consumers to recognize your product, and that really is the whole point of it. I have clients sometimes, and they're kind of all over the place. They want to have, you know, for this they want to have like blue and green, and for this they want to have yellow and red for their coloring, and they want to use all kinds of different names and include all kinds of different products. And I think it ends up making it confusing for the consumer. So with branding, I think you kind of have to put yourself in the consumer's shoes and sort of think about what they would like, and, you know, and what's going to be helpful for them to be able to recognize your product. And certain clothing lines can help somebody express themselves. And then the branding kind of helps people identify, you know, the quality of the goods and the products. You know, if you have a great experience with a certain bank or something, then you're going to keep that in mind. Oh, okay, their services are great. They've got really good quality. Or you go someplace and it's not that great, and then you kind of remember that based on the branding. So, oh, okay. So, yeah, I guess this is an example. So yeah, this is a really good example. So Sony kind of built up its name recognition over decades, right? And so they were able to charge a lot more money for the products that they sell, because they had really great quality. So LG comes into the scene, and all they could really do is compete on price. So they need to be competitive. They need to have great quality, but they have to compete on price as well. And then once people start taking a chance on a different company, then LG can build up their brand recognition and their goodwill and customer satisfaction. And I think that that's really important for entrepreneurs to keep in mind, because as you're starting out, you have no goodwill. Nobody knows, you know, nobody knows who you are. And so you do have to find a way to make people trust you and to, you know, take a chance on you. And that can be very difficult for startups. Okay, so trademarks. So this is one of my favorite topics, this and patents. So it's legal protection for a brand. The trademark can protect the brand name or the brand mark or a logo. You can, in some cases, you can trademark a particular color. If you see a tractor out in the field and it's orange and yellow and green, you know that it's John Deere. You can also, if you go into a store and they have bags that are, you know, robin egg blue, you know that store is Tiffany's. So the trademark, it protects the brand name, and it helps the consumer identify the source of goods and services. So when you see, you know, that John Deere tractor in the field, you know that it was provided by John Deere and not a different company. If you see the oval, the blue oval, and it says Ford in it, you know that car is from Ford and it's not from Tesla. So in order to use the registered R symbol, you do need to register the trademark at the federal level. And that protects you across the entire country, the entire United States, and our territories. It does not protect you globally. So if you need to go into Canada and sell goods and services there, you wouldn't be able to do that. I mean, you could do it, but you wouldn't have trademark protection from the US. You'd have to go into Canada and get that protection. And Sanskriti, did you have a question?
Yes, Rebecca. I was wondering if our business has to generate revenue for us to get a trademark. Like, could we get a trademark otherwise too?
Yeah, so this is what this slide is covering. You don't necessarily have to be profitable to get a trademark, but you do need to be using your trademark in interstate commerce. So for most entrepreneurs, this is not an issue. But if you're offering services across state lines, or if you're selling goods across state lines, then you're eligible for federal trademark registration. An example of somebody that might not be eligible would be maybe a local restaurant. If they just, they've got a place on Elmwood Avenue and that's the only place that they have their restaurant, they probably wouldn't need or want to get a federal trademark registration. But for most other businesses, if you're online, it's very important to get a trademark registered because it's so easy to steal somebody's name. And somebody, if you're here in New York State and you've got a business and you're providing services online, somebody in California might see your name and say, hey, that's a nice name. I'm gonna, start up a business using that name. Then they run to the trademark office before you. They get their trademark registered because the trademark office doesn't know about you at all. And so the California people get the trademark and then you didn't get it. And in order for you to be able to get your trademark, there's a lot of heavy lifting involved. So that's one of the reasons to, potentially trademark earlier rather than later. So that's why for entrepreneurs that are just starting out, my recommendation is to at least get that name on file. Most people won't steal your logo because it's just so obvious that you took it from somebody else. A name is a little bit different. You don't really know if they came up with that on their own or if they flat out stole it. But if they take your logo that you had created by a graphic design company, then it's pretty obvious. It looks like I have a question here. Okay, so Launchpad is telling me that Kylie Jenner tried to trademark Kylie. That brings me to my favorite person, which is Taylor Swift. She's trademarked her name in connection with almost everything. And you are able to do that. So if you're using that name, your own name, to sell t-shirts, to provide entertainment services, music services, performance services, you are able to trademark your own name. So Kylie, I don't know what she tried to trademark her name for, but all that means is she's allowed to, let's just say it's t-shirts. She's allowed to use the name Kylie in connection with the sale of t-shirts. But she can't prevent somebody from having the name Kylie. She can't prevent somebody from obtaining a trademark for the word Kylie. Let's just say if somebody wanted to start selling tires. T-shirts would be so far away from tires that the trademark office would say that that's fine. So you are able to trademark your name. Like I said, Taylor Swift has a whole bunch of trademark registrations. And the only downside with that is if you own a company, and there's the fashion designer and his name is escaping me right now, but he had a company with his name and the company was taken over and the trademark went with the company, so he wasn't able to use his own name for fashion design anymore. And
Hugo Boss.
No, it wasn't Hugo Boss. I can't, it's just slipping my mind right now. It was this, Halston. So Halston had a company called Halston, and then he just wasn't able to use that name to sell his own fashion designs anymore. So that's one downside to using your own name as a trademark, but it is possible. So then, yeah, the next requirement is that it cannot be confusingly similar to another trademark. So confusingly similar is a somewhat subjective standard. And the standpoint they use is the consumer. So if the consumer looks at something and they might be confused as to the source of goods and services, then the trademark office is going to say, no, you can't register this. So, so for example, if you have Spot Coffee and they sell coffee, and then across this, you know, somebody wants to come along and open an automotive repair shop, and they want to call themselves Spot Repair, that would probably be okay, because nobody's going to think that this coffee shop is connected to an automobile repair shop. So so confusingly similar, they look at a bunch of different factors to determine, you know, if the marks are too close and if the goods and services are too close. So a lot of times I'll have clients, they'll say, oh, well, I changed a letter, or I spelled it different. And that doesn't matter. It's still, the consumer is going to look at that and they're going to say, wait, there's a letter different, but did they change the spelling? I think it's the same company. And you don't want, the whole point of trademark law is to protect the consumer. So you don't want, the trademark office isn't going to allow anything that's confusingly similar. Okay, and that's the next point. So trademark law is a little bit interesting. The whole point of it is to protect this consumer, but the trademark benefits really do go to the trademark holder. You can use trademark as collateral on a loan. Ford in the early mid 2000s, I believe, they decided to completely restructure their entire business. And in order to do so, they needed like a $30 billion loan. And as part of their collateral, they put up their logo as collateral against that loan. And then for me, it was so exciting because a couple of years later, as they had paid down the loan, that trademark was brought back from being used as collateral against the loan. And trade dress is sort of what I was mentioning, the green and yellow tractors, and I'm looking at the time, and if anybody has any questions about trademark, throw them in the chat, but I am going to skip along to the different types of intellectual property on balance are trademarks, copyrights, patents, trade secrets. Copyrights protect original works of authorships like a screenplay, sculpture, photograph, painting. And I'm going to skip to patents because that's kind of what we're here for. There's only a couple minutes left. Yeah. Okay, hold on. Okay. Okay, so patents. So patents, they provide exclusive rights to the inventor of an invention to prevent others from making, using, selling, or distributing the patented invention without permission. The standard for a patent is it needs to be useful, it needs to be novel, and it needs to be non-obvious. And that's fairly straightforward. You know, if you create a new, I've been talking about coffee, so I'll just keep it going, a new coffee maker, and it's got some type of way of using less energy, let's just say. You would be able to patent that. It's completely useful. You're able to use it to make coffee. It's novel because it uses less energy than other coffee makers, or let's say it's solar powered or something, I don't know. And then the other question is it non-obvious? If the tweak that you've made in terms of the energy savings is, if it's considered just sort of standard engineering, then the patent office might say, oh, hey, this is obvious. But if it makes more of a leap, the Europeans use the phrase inventive step. If there's more of an inventive step and it's not obvious, then you should be allowed to get a patent on it. As you can imagine, the patent office is usually, that's their rejection. They say, oh, okay, it's useful, it's novel, but you know, it seems kind of obvious. And that's where the patent attorney has to come back and make arguments suggesting that it's not obvious. So that's a very subjective standard. You know, when patent attorneys are writing the patent application, we try to keep that in mind. Where is my argument going to be that this is not obvious? Okay, look, you know, routine engineering, that might give you a 2% energy savings, but we're getting 5% energy savings here. So that's one of the things that the patent attorney kind of keeps in mind as he or she is writing the patent application. And then in terms of usefulness, oh, hold on. That is not what I wanted to happen. Okay, so my AirPods are officially not useful because they fell out of my ear. So no patent for Apple. Oh, for usefulness, we had the question earlier about algorithms and artificial intelligence. This area of technology can be somewhat difficult to patent because algorithms are not patentable. It's just an across the board, you know, you can't patent this. So if there's a method step that has an algorithm in it, that may be okay. But the computer inventions, they can be very difficult to obtain patent protection on. And it's about 10 years ago, the United States Supreme Court, they made it very difficult for any type of software invention to obtain patent protection. So ever since then, the patent office came along and they try to interpret the Supreme Court's decision to make software inventions patent eligible. The Supreme Court knocks them down, and then the patent office tries again, Supreme Court knocks them down. So we've been kind of in this sort of, you know, this sort of strange world where patent attorneys are trying their hardest to get any type of software computer technology to be patentable, and we're having a problem with the Supreme Court. So what needs to happen is that the Congress needs to come along and change the patent law and prevent the Supreme Court's interpretation from being the law of the land. But because the Congress has not done that yet, it's a little bit of a minefield. And the reason I bring that up is because a lot of times tech companies and entrepreneurs and startups, their you know, their focus is software, and that is what they're doing, artificial intelligence and algorithms. And so the Supreme Court really has put patent practitioners in a little bit of a bind. And I think to me, it's a little bit ridiculous because I do my banking on my phone, right? So the whole point of patent law is to move technology forward. So you used to have to go to the bank with your check, right? And now you don't have to go to the bank with your check anymore because you just deposit it from your phone. So you can't tell me that that's not a technological leap that is supposed to be protected by patent law. So I don't know really what's going to happen. I don't know if the Congress will ever, you know, get together and be able to come up with a way to rewrite the patent statutes so that, you know, some of these computer software inventions can be patent eligible. But that is something to keep in mind. So then that kind of leads nicely into the next point, which is trade secrets. If you do a software can be, I'll get to your question in a second, it can be covered by copyright. So that's one strategy for protecting it. But if you've got some technology, you may be able to keep it as a trade secret. And all this means is that nobody knows how to do what you're doing. So depending on your technology, if it's something that can be reverse engineered, then the trade secret isn't going to provide you very much protection. And your question is? I don't know what I'm doing. You're on mute.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
My question is that how do social media companies like Instagram, WhatsApp, Snapchat, how do they protect themselves? Like, because is it the brand value they provide? Because the algorithm could be copied, right?
Yeah, so the brand, the brand recognition is huge. I mean, I find Facebook to be an absolutely fascinating case study because everybody hates Facebook and everybody's on Facebook. It's just become such a utility at this point. So yeah, there is brand recognition, but there are ways that the patent practitioners have been able to get patent protection. So Facebook does definitely have patents. Instagram has patents. Snapchat has patents. They all do have patents. It's just gotten more difficult. So it is possible, but it's just a lot more difficult. And for any of the computer science or computer engineering people on the meeting tonight, one of the interesting things that I always find is that when I'm writing one of these patent applications, I need back-end information. I don't know why, but my inventors can never get me the back-end information. And I'm saying, how does the database work? Who does the server talk to? Who's asking what? What about this? And they're like, okay, first you log into the system. And I'm saying over and over, please stop giving me this front end information. I don't need it. So, so that's actually another thing to keep in mind. A lot of times inventors get into fights with their computer engineers and can never get the back end information. So try to get that as soon as you can. The other information that is, the other important thing to remember about patents is once you've got an invention, before you disclose it, try to get a provisional patent application on file. This is sort of a placeholder patent application. It buys you a year of time before you have to file the non-provisional patent application, which is where you're actually asking for the grant of patent rights. But the provisional, that gets you an international filing date. It preserves your potential patent rights. You can market your invention as patent pending. So that can be very helpful because in the patent world, let's say if you invent something and you sit on it for a while and somebody else invents the same thing and they beat you to the patent office, then you're kind of out of luck. The other problem is if you disclose your invention in the United States, you have 1 year to file that patent application before you lose your rights completely. In other jurisdictions, such as Germany, if you disclose your invention, you've completely lost your rights. And then the other thing I was going to say about patents is the same as trademarks. You know, your patent application is valid in the United States if you file it here. It doesn't protect you in Canada. It doesn't protect you in any European country. It doesn't protect you anywhere else. Now, the upside to living in the United States is that we have a very big, consumer market here. So that protection is pretty good. But somebody could take your invention and they could start making it in Canada and start selling it there, and you wouldn't be able to stop them. Same with it in Europe, they'd be able to make it there and sell it there. So there are some strategies for, obtaining foreign patent protection. And, all startups and entrepreneurs, they want to get, patent protection across the entire globe, and it is so cost prohibitive. So that's why the provisional is really nice. It's not as expensive. You can get something on file quickly. You can market it as patent pending, see if there's interest in your patent, in your invention without, spending a ton of money on your patent portfolio, and seeing where you go before you, file the non-provisional, which is, like I said, the actual ask for the patent grant. So it's 7:30 exactly. I'm happy to continue talking more, or I can answer a couple questions, or we can wrap up. Does anybody have any questions?
I was just wondering, what's the procedure to file a patent in the US and globally?
The procedure, you would write up the description of the invention, and you include as much information in there as possible. You do need to disclose exactly how it works, exactly how to make it. And then there are claims. and those outline the metes and boundaries of your invention, what's required to make your invention, and then that's what people are not able to infringe on. And then, so that's for the non-provisional. Globally, you can file a PCT application, which stands for Patent Cooperation Treaty. So you would file that at the same time as the US case. And then from there, you've got 30 or 31 months to file national phase applications in the different countries. So that can be very beneficial for startups too. If they're able to get some funding at the 20-month mark, then they might be able to file in those different countries that they're, you know, hoping to commercialize their invention in. So that's, yeah, that's probably, yeah, it's a quick and dirty answer on the process. But yeah, that is important to remember. You do need to disclose pretty much everything about your invention in the patent application. I had a client who has a behind the scenes, he makes the food product. And when I wrote up the patent application for him, and he said, I don't want to file this. I want to keep this as a trade secret. So I said, okay. We didn't file the patent application. That's something that sometimes people are a little bit surprised by, that they
Could you touch on the time the patents can protect your idea versus trade secrets?
Yeah, that's a great question. The patent will last 20 years from the date of filing. So if we file it today, you've got 20 years roughly. There are maintenance fees involved, and you know, this assumes that the patent issues. But there will be a year or two where it's patent pending and you don't actually have patent protection there until it issues. But you can go back and file for patent infringement if the infringement took place after the filing. The trade secret can last forever. It lasts as long as it's a secret. There's no formal registration. There's nothing. So the two best examples, I have 3 examples now. I've learned of a new one. It's very exciting. The 3 examples are Coca-Cola, the secret formula for Coca-Cola, Kentucky Fried Chicken, and then my new favorite is WD-40. So the formulation for WD-40. I found out recently that that was never patented, so they keep it as a trade secret. The downside to the trade secret is the minute somebody discloses it, it's not a secret anymore, and you've lost that competitive edge. And so you have to be very careful. You can have non-disclosure agreements with your employees to make sure that they don't disclose it to anybody. I believe what Coca-Cola, KFC, and probably WD-40 do is, I don't think there's really any one person that knows the whole formula. So this person knows this component, this person knows this component, and then you put it all together and get everything formulated. So yeah, that can last indefinitely though. The downside to the trade secret is, depending on what it is, it could be reverse engineered. So if it's some type of technology.
Everything can be reverse engineered. Like
Yeah, they haven't reverse engineered Coca-Cola yet.
Like a duplicate product to make a competition is always there. Like the competition is very easy. Like as a startup, like it's more like dangerous. Like big companies have big teams. They have more talented engineers. They can like make things very quick. Like
Yeah, that's probably true.
I have
All
another
right,
question, Rebecca. This is my
Okay.
last question. I was just wondering,
Okay.
how does monopolistic competition exist? Like, is branding like the only key reason that companies like differentiate each other, like Lyft and Uber, Coca-Cola and Pepsi?
I don't understand the question.
Oh,
Like
okay.
duopolies.
Duopolies and monopolistic competition, like how does it exist with patents, and like how do companies differentiate each other, like from each other? Is it through branding, like solely?
Yeah, that would be more through, branding. Yeah, that's, I mean, Pepsi and Coke, they're you know, I think you do have camps. Some people like Coke and some people like Pepsi for whatever reason. And I don't really know how that evolved. I don't think either one of those companies have huge patent portfolios. Maybe here and there they try to patent something, but their portfolio is going to be more trademark and branding.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. Did anyone else have any questions?
No, I
Okay.
added you on LinkedIn, so hopefully we will get to talk more.
Okay, sounds good.
Well, questions, anybody? Guess not.
I don't have a question specifically, but like I would like to thank you for all the content that you just put across. Like it will be very useful for us to like plan accordingly how we could be able to patent what we have at our hand as well. So thank you so much for
Okay.
that.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
Rebecca, is it safe to say and talk about the video series that you'll be doing with Blackstone Launchpad? Could you share some more about that, or do you?
I recorded basically what I called it was intellectual property, how to make sure that you're protecting your stuff, but also to make sure that you're not stepping on other people's intellectual property. So I recorded that. I don't know how that's going to be edited, and I don't know how it's going to be released. So I don't have much else to say on it.
Yeah, we'll be releasing it in a 3-part series. So
Oh, cool.
yeah. So I mean, students, stay tuned for that. I think it'll be uploaded on our YouTube, but you'll definitely be notified.
Okay.
Rebecca, again, thank you so much for your time. Everybody, please join me in giving a virtual round of applause for such an awesome presentation.
Thank you.
And students, don't leave just yet. I'm going to make a few quick announcements about some of our programs that are coming in next week.